Hey everyone, so it's been almost exactly 1 year since I made one of the most impulsive decisions of my life. January 2025. I walked into the dealership and I bought a manual Civic SI despite barely knowing how to drive stick or understand the culture behind these cars. And I know what you're thinking, why would anyone do that? Well, today I'm going to take you through my journey of learning manual transmission with my 2020 Civic SI. Let's get into it. So let me set the scene. About 2 years ago, I was driving an automatic Mazda 6. And honestly, it's a very beautiful car, top trim, super comfortable, loaded with features, smooth ride, everything you want in a daily driver. But here's the thing, I was never satisfied. I drive it every day and it just feels disconnected. Like I was a passenger in my own car, you know? The car did everything for me, it shifted for me, it had all these features. It was comfortable, but it wasn't engaging. Then one day, I randomly came across a review video of a Miata, and something clicked in my brain. I thought to myself, that is the car that I want to drive someday. The raw driving experience, the connection, the community, everything about it just looked right. But there was one problem. I had no idea how to drive a manual. So I called up my friend who knew how to drive a manual, and he told me to go and find the cheapest beat-up manual car that I could find. And so I found an old 2006 Honda Civic with a manual transmission. Paint was peeling, it had those old school manual roll-down windows. It humbles you, you know? But hey, I got it for $3,000 and the thing was rough, but it was perfect for learning. For the first month, my friend would sit beside me and we would first practice in parking lots. And after those few months, I was on my own. This car was my teacher, and let me tell you, those times were brutal. I wouldn't even talk about downshifts yet because I could barely stop and take off with the car. It was an absolutely terrifying experience. Even driving in my residential areas where there were fewer cars, I still felt scared. But I practiced it every day whenever I had a chance. Stop, stall, start, repeat. I wasn't even downshifting at that point. But I kept at it. I started by driving just a few blocks around my house, stopping at stop signs, going up small hills, running through gears 1, 2, 3. Eventually, I pushed myself a bit further, a few more blocks, into traffic lights with cars behind me, and eventually, I was driving 20 to 30 minutes out by myself. After 3 months, I sold the Civic since the car was going to break down at any point, and having two cars for me just doesn't make sense. And so I went back to driving my Mazda 6. Shortly after selling my Civic, I realized something. I wasn't gonna get better at manual if I wasn't driving it every day. I was treating it like a side project instead of fully committing to it. And that's when I decided to look for a good, decent manual car as my daily driver. So no backup, no automatic, no safety net, just full commitment. The only problem? I still barely knew how to drive stick. And I definitely didn't know much about manual cars in general. I started researching and found two manual cars in my city with the price range that I wanted, the Civic SI and then the Mazda 3 manual. Since I was already driving a Mazda 6, naturally I went for the Mazda 3 first. It was a red color and it had all the bells and whistles and it's a manual, so I tried to make a deal for that car, but the dealership won't budge on the price. The Civic SI dealership though, they were eager to make a deal. They called me every single week for like 3 weeks straight just to get me to come in and make the trade. And eventually, they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. And so last year in January around this time, I signed the papers and I drove home with the Civic SI with still barely any idea of what I was doing, and I only had 3 months of manual driving experience at that time. My first few weeks with the car was an experience. I was watching all the manual driving tutorials on YouTube that I could find. I was learning about different parts of the car, the engine, and all of that. My downshift, and I'm not even talking about rev match downshifts, just basic clutch out downshifts were jerky, even my upshifts were jerky. One of my friends told me that he didn't like riding the car because it gave him like a mini whiplash every time I shifted. That's how bad the driving was. Surprisingly though, I didn't stall much. The Civic SI's clutch was forgiving and really good for beginner manual drivers, so that wasn't much of an issue. And with that confidence, I started learning how to downshift without jerking the car, and eventually trying to get the rhythm of rev match downshifting. And here's what happened over the few months. For my first few months, I was still struggling with smooth upshifts and basic clutch control. Every shift required my full concentration. I would plan routes to avoid steep hills and busy intersections. The car felt like it was fighting me with every gear change. And around 3 to 5 months, things starts to click. My upshifts become smoother. I learned to feel the bite point of the clutch and match my timing better. I started attempting to rev match downshift, though they were still inconsistent. Hills were no longer scary, just challenging. I began to actually enjoy the drive instead of just surviving it. And after 6 months with the car, this is where the manual driving becomes second nature. Rev matching became a little bit more natural. I could hear the engine and know exactly when to blip the throttle. My shifts were smooth enough that passengers stopped complaining. I started to understand the SI's personality, like how it's like to be driven, where the power band lives, and where to stay in gear versus when to shift. About a year into driving this SI, it feels automatic now, if that makes sense. I don't need to think about it anymore, my body just does it. I've slowly mastered smooth clutch control, consistent rev match downshifts, and I've started experimenting with heel-toe-downshift technique for spirited driving or just in general. But more than the technique, my entire relationship with driving has changed. Every drive, even just to go to the gym or the grocery store, feels like an experience now. I'm engaged, connected, present in a way that I was never with the Mazda 6. So here I am, almost 1 year later, and I've been thinking about this journey a lot. The feeling I had with the Mazda 6, the feeling that something was missing, I finally understood what it was. Do I miss the Mazda 6? Not really anymore. All those worries about not having blind spot monitoring, the heads-up display, ventilated seats, heated steering wheel, they all disappear as soon as you press the clutch pedal in and start banging through the gears in the Civic. Would I ever go back to an automatic? With my life situation right now, probably not. I don't need to drive into work every day, so I can enjoy the little time that I have to drive the manual transmission. Looking back, buying this car when I barely knew how to drive a manual was risky, but it forced me to learn. It forced me to commit. And honestly, it was 100% worth it. And I would recommend anyone who's on the fence to do the same. I promise you, you'll love it. So that's my story so far. From an automatic, comfortable Mazda 6 to a beat-up Civic to daily driving the SI. If you're thinking about learning manual, my advice is to get a beater car, watch videos online, and try to keep practice every single day. Try to improve one thing at a time, and in no time, you'll get better at it and you'll love the experience. Well, that's all for this video. I'll talk more about the mods I've put into this car in the next video. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more driving POVs and build videos, and let me know in the comments, are you a team manual or team automatic? And if you're a team manual, let me know what car you're driving down in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.